There's always a hidden truth beneath the glitter of every so-called golden age. Wealth has never truly been safe. It wasn't safe in the era of mighty empires, during violent revolutions, or even in those periods history later labels as stable. From the grand palaces of Babylon to the luxurious villas of ancient Rome, the wealthy have always played by a different set of rules. They understood something most people never did. Wealth, whether in gold coins, grain, or land, was never just money. It was leverage. It was protection. It was survival. While ordinary people trusted the system to protect them, the elites quietly learned how to protect themselves from the system itself. And that's the real question worth asking.
Not how they became rich, but how they managed to stay rich when everything around them was collapsing. To understand that, we need to go back to a time when being rich didn't mean having a large bank balance. It meant controlling resources no one else could easily reach or take away. 4,000 years before Christ, in the city-states of Mesopotamia, the wealthiest merchants and rulers didn't simply hide silver in vaults. Instead, they invested it in temple loans, farmland leases, and powerful trade monopolies that stretched across rivers and deserts. Kings ruling cities like and Lagash linked their wealth directly to religion. Temples weren't just sacred spaces, they functioned as the central banks of the ancient world. Seizing temple wealth wasn't just theft, it was an offense against the gods themselves. That religious protection made elite wealth effectively untouchable. The Egyptian pharaohs understood this strategy just as well. During the Old and Middle Kingdoms, they didn't rely on coins. Their wealth was stored in tangible assets: fertile land along the Nile, vast grain warehouses, and gold mines deep in Nubia. These assets couldn't be easily seized without destabilizing the entire state. Wealthy Egyptians also used early versions of trusts by dedicating land to temples. That way, even if rulers changed, their wealth remained protected. As long as you owned land that produced food, inflation or currency collapse didn't matter. Food was always valuable. By the 5th century BC in classical Greece, we see a new strategy emerge: mobility and diversification. Greek merchants in Athens, Corinth, and across the Aegean Sea built fortunes through maritime trade. They understood that wars or coups could wipe out wealth held in a single city, so they spread their assets across multiple city-states, kept deposits with foreign bankers, and invested in ships and cargo. They weren't hiding money, they were spreading risk. If Athens fell to Sparta, a smart merchant could simply relocate to Rhodes and continue almost untouched. The Romans took this concept even further.
Senators, generals, and the ultra-rich equestrian class were deeply familiar with political danger. They had watched dictators rise and fall, and property get seized during purges under leaders like Sulla and Julius Caesar. Their response was diversification combined with influence. Roman elites bought land in multiple provinces, invested in tax collection contracts, and lent money to foreign kings, loans backed by Roman military power. Even portable wealth like gold, jewelry, and art was hidden far from political rivals. As the Western Roman Empire began to collapse, something remarkable happened. While the state lost its ability to maintain order, the wealthiest families quietly shifted their assets from public institutions to private control. They withdrew support from the imperial treasury and invested instead in fortified estates, private militias, and independent trade networks. When Rome officially fell in 476 AD, the imperial treasury was empty, but the richest families still controlled land, food supplies, and manpower. The empire was gone, yet their wealth survived. During medieval Europe, between the 11th and 15th centuries, the wealthy adapted once again. This time, they used the church as a financial shield. Kings frequently seized property from rivals, but land donated to the church was largely untouchable. Wealthy families parked assets in monasteries, ensuring long-term protection. The Medici family of 15th century Florence perfected this approach by using early credit systems. They moved wealth across borders through accounting entries rather than gold. Even bankruptcy in one city didn't mean ruin. They remained wealthy elsewhere.
In the Islamic world, especially in cities like Baghdad and Cairo, merchants developed equally sophisticated methods. The Hawala system allowed money to move based on trust and reputation without physical transfer. This made wealth extremely difficult for rulers to confiscate. Merchants also invested heavily in caravans, real estate, and long-term trade monopolies that continued producing income despite political chaos. As centralized states strengthened in the early modern era, the elite adapted yet again. In Venice, Amsterdam, and London, wealthy merchant families tied their fortunes to the state, but on their own terms. They financed wars, supplied ships, and purchased government debt in exchange for privileges. They became too important to punish and too valuable to confiscate from. So, what does all of this history reveal? Protecting wealth has always depended on two principles: control and distance. Control means owning assets that generate value regardless of political change: land, resources, trade routes. Distance means spreading those assets across different systems, jurisdictions, and forms of wealth, so no single crisis can destroy everything. Ancient elites understood something many people still overlook today. Wealth stored entirely within the official system is wealth at risk. In a world where bank accounts can be frozen instantly, currencies can collapse overnight, and markets can crash in days, the lesson remains unchanged. The tools are modern: international diversification, precious metals, alternative assets, but the principle is timeless. History may not repeat itself exactly, but the risks never disappear. People assume stability until it's gone. The wealthy of the past didn't wait for collapse. They acted early. And that's the real meaning of financial freedom. Not just having money, but ensuring it survives every storm. If there's one final lesson here, it's this: the system works best for those who know how to work around it. Everyone else learns, too late, that their safe money was never truly under their control. If this perspective changed the way you think, hit subscribe. History has the answers, and I'll show you where to find them.